All right, welcome to Hoops Tonight here at The Volume. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Hope all of you guys are having a great week so far. Quick show today. We're just going to be hitting both games from the in-season tournament slate last night as the New York Knicks dominate the Raptors with the second quarter run. Really want to dive into their defense today. And then after that, the Orlando Magic beat the Miami Heat for the third time this season. I want to talk about some of the specific things that have made Orlando such a tough matchup for Miami, how nice of a fit Desmond Bane is in that offense, and why he's been able to kind of unlock another dimension to the offense that didn't exist. And I want to talk about why the Miami Heat have to start running a little bit more pick and roll to try to help Tyler Herro. You guys know the drill. Before we get started, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Make sure you also like this video. That helps us a lot if you just scroll down and like the video real quick. And then if you want to get mailbag questions into our mailbags and our full episodes like this, just drop questions in the mailbag. We'll get to them. We're going to have another mailbag coming a week from this Friday. All right, let's talk some basketball. So Knicks Raptors actually started as like a really fun shootout between Brandon Ingram and Jalen Brunson. Really impressive shot making from both of those guys in that run. Just kind of looked like a shootout, highly entertaining game, tons of energy. Jalen Brunson's talking trash. Brandon Ingram's all fired up. Looked like a really fun game in the making. But then the Knicks just played one of their best quarters of basketball of the entire season in that second quarter. And they just completely ran away with the game, and they never looked back from there. I want to start by shouting out the defensive trio of Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges. I'm going to have some clips of this today. We're experimenting with some new social media content. I'm going to put together some video examples of this for later today. But those three guys really dominated the defensive end of the floor during that second quarter run. No surprise there. That trio has been fantastic all season. As a matter of fact, the Knicks have a 101 defensive rating with Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby on the floor together. And that group is plus 28 net overall to start the season. But it really comes down to one of the most important foundational defensive concepts in the NBA, which is the ability to shrink the floor while still being able to recover out to the perimeter. I think this specific concept is what made the Golden State Warriors such a dominant defense in their peak with Draymond Green, and whether it was Andrew Wiggins or it was Harrison Barnes or Kevin Durant or whatever players they had on the floor, they are always so good at shrinking the floor, making things feel super compact around the ball. But whenever you throw these kickouts, they'd be bang, bang in their rotations and things would be gone. Oklahoma City is probably the best team in the league at this specific concept right now. But the Knicks, when they're at their best defensively, that is what makes them good. All three of those particular guys, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby, are very good, like athletic, dig down and recover guys. They can cover ground when they need to make things feel compact, but still get out to the perimeter. All three guys did damage in that second quarter run. The box score only showed 2 blocks for OG Anunoby, but it's because there was this weird one where he definitely blocked Sandro Mamukelashvili on a driving layup, but it got logged as a steal for some reason. I had him for 3 blocks in the second quarter alone, and 2 of those were possessions where he helped off of a shooter on the weak side to get to a driver and blow up a play, blocking them at the rim. Mikal Bridges had a similar kind of peel-off situation where Scotty Barnes is posting up in the middle of the floor. Looks like he's all alone. As soon as Mikal Bridges guarding somebody right at the top of the key, as soon as Scotty turns over his right shoulder to take that little fadeaway, Mikal Bridges just digs down quickly, gets over the top, and deflects the ball away from Scotty Barnes, another block. Again, the rangy athleticism of those guys. Josh Hart was doing damage on his dig downs. He had a steal on Chucky Hepburn in that run where he just dug down in the lane, swatted down at the basketball, caused him to lose control, and led to a turnover. Now, throughout the quarter, there were several examples where those guys were in the lane, but those kick-out passes were made by Toronto, and they had to make the rotations to kill those sequences. A perfect example was one with Scotty Barnes along the right wing. He gets Karl-Anthony Towns on a switch, and he drives down the lane line, and as a result, OG Anunoby sends like a late double team. So now you've got Cat and OG Anunoby double teaming Scotty Barnes on the right block. This forms a 3-on-2 on the weak side with Josh Hart and Mikal Bridges. So you have Sandro Mamukelashvili who tees up right in front of the rim. He's just standing there wide open right in front of the rim. Josh Hart comes off of Grady Dick in the corner to tag him, right? That leaves a 2-on-1 on the weak side with Mikal Bridges kind of splitting the difference between Grady Dick and I think it was Jacoby Walter on the left wing, right? So there's an opening on the weak side, but Josh Hart is taking away the easy layup, And to Scotty Barnes' credit, he makes a beautiful kickout pass, cross court on a rope right into Jacoby Walter's hands. The right read in that situation. So in other words, the Raptors did everything right. They got a favorable matchup by getting Karl-Anthony Towns onto Scotty Barnes. Scotty Barnes attacked that matchup and drew a double team, created an advantage on the weak side, made the read, rifled a great pass to the wide open guy on the wing. Here's the problem. Mikal Bridges flies out to Jacoby Walter. Josh Hart flies out to Grady Dick in the corner. And Mamu Kelashvili's not open anymore because Cat just quick peels off right onto Mamu. Bam, the advantage is gone. Those are the kinds of sequences that blow up these, that allow the Knicks to essentially load up on the ball, but not give up easy openings on the weak side because they have these rangy athletes that can recover back out to the perimeter. And by the way, the Knicks defense is up to 10th in defensive rating now after their performance in Toronto last night. That has been one of the driving forces to the successful stretches of Knicks defense, dating even back to last year. Like the Celtics series, that was a big part of how they won the Celtics series. Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby and Josh Hart flying around in help and recover situations, making the on-ball player feel crowded, but then suddenly getting out and forcing contested shots or chasing people off the line so that their defense can recover. Now, I want to come back to the defense and the bigger picture here in just a second, but quickly just to close out the game reaction, I also thought the Knicks did an amazing job attacking the rim in that second quarter. We talked about this a lot in our video on December 1st, and I encourage you Knicks fans, if you haven't seen that one yet, that's where we really broke down some of the specifics of the Knicks offense and how they're driving the basketball a lot more this year, how they're generating a lot more spot-up opportunities than they did in previous years, and how that's leading to another level from them offensively than we saw under Tom Thibodeau. But last night was a perfect example of that in that second quarter, as the Knicks were just relentlessly attacking the basket. Cat was attacking the rim that entire run. He had a couple really nice drives, including a nasty poster dunk where he faked a dribble handoff with Mikal Bridges and got down the lane and just hammered it, started screaming. He had a deep seal where he actually got blocked on a really nice defensive rotation from Ochai Agbaji, but he just recovered, got the ball back, and fed it back into the basket. A lot of attacking Grady Dick in one-on-one. Jordan Clarkson beat him one-on-one in a drive. OG Anunoby beat him for a short little fadeaway. OG was great in that run. He actually led the Knicks in scoring in the second quarter. He drew a couple fouls attacking the rim. Just really nice work offensively from the Knicks. Jalen Brunson, who was amazing in the first quarter, continued that in the second quarter run. He just has too much size on Jamal Shed. He was just easily able to shoot over the top. He was getting to his floater in that second quarter. It was just one of the best quarters of Knicks basketball from this entire season. They outscored the Raptors 34-13 in that second quarter run. It's basically game over from there. The Raptors were never able to even come close to threatening them the rest of the way. So I want to dig into two more ideas here with the Knicks before we move on to a little bit of Raptors, and then we'll go to the next game. First of all, how do the Knicks turn this statistically successful defense into a resilient one that doesn't have the issues like they had in the postseason last year or in the Boston game a few games ago? And to me, it's about acknowledging your strengths and weaknesses. You have a strength in the athleticism you have around your stars and their ability to stunt and recover or help and recover, like we talked about earlier, right? You have a weakness in the form of a physically limited Jalen Brunson, which acts as an entry point for your defense, and then Cat, who's incredibly mistake prone. Now, some of Cat's mistake making is just part of the deal, and there's nothing you can do to coach that out of the situation or build a lineup to cover for him. Like that last second or late kind of crunch time closeout on Jordan Walsh in the left corner of the Celtics game, where he just guy who's 3 for 9 on quarter threes in the entire season, and Cat's like jumping out of his shoes to chase him off the line, and Jordan Walsh just driving for a layup. Like there's nothing Mike Brown can do about that. That's just an incredibly stupid mistake, right? Or the stuff that was happening at the tail end of the Pacers series where Cat is like in transition defense position at the top of the key, and he's like crashing off the top, and they're just giving up runouts to Pascal Siakam the other way because Cat's not paying attention to like a foundational concept of transition defense, which is when you're at the top of the key, you're the get back man. You're not the crash the offensive glass man, right? Like there's a certain amount of that sort of thing that Cat's just going to do a couple times every game, and it is what it is. The question is, how can you avoid some of the other issues that he has defensively, like in the Celtics game in pick and roll, where he's doing a different thing on 3 consecutive Derek White, Nimi Keita pick and rolls, or like just having these mental lapses where he'll throw a crazy hard hedge and give up an easy slip or whatever it might be. He's generally bad in drop coverage because he just struggles with that dance between the ball handler and the big man rolling. He'll give up an easy dunk or he'll give up an easy driving layup because he just struggles with that sort of thing. And so to me, it's about limiting Cat's decision making on the defensive end as much as possible. The more decisions you have him make, the more likely he is to make a bunch of mistakes. This is where I actually like how much the Knicks were switching on the defensive end last night. They've done a lot of switching this season in general, but I talked about this going back to last season. That's my favorite look for the Knicks, is switching with Cat and Brunson rather than hedging with Brunson or running drop with Cat. I want to see situations where those guys have really simple decisions to make, and then you put the defensive job, the difficult part of those guys' job, which is guarding on the ball, put that on those wings to do the rangy help and recover, dig down and recover stuff that can counter and make up for some of the shortcomings from those two guys, right? So like, for instance, if you go to Cat and it's like, hey man, your dude's setting a screen, go out and guard the ball. Make sure you're at the level so you don't give up an easy catch and shoot or easy little pull up 3 off the other side of the screen. And just do the best you can to guard the ball. If you get beat, we'll have a plan for it. Try to get beat towards the sideline or whatever it is. Just have basic stuff. Although, again, game plan discipline is not Cat's strength. But you have him just focus on a simple task of guarding the man in front of him, right? Now, the second piece of this is you want to avoid what happened at the end of the Celtics game, where Jalen Brown's attacking Jalen Brunson over and over again. And he's scoring on him one-on-one. And then it leads to the blitz. And so now you're trying to protect Brunson, so you start blitzing Jalen Brown 30 feet from the basket. And it just is really difficult to make those rotations because your defense is too spread out over too large of a space, right? In that situation, you only have 3 defenders within 30 feet of the basket at that point. It's just really difficult to rotate out of that, right? So like, rather than blitzing or something that compromises your defense too extensively at the beginning of possessions, when Cat and Brunson are struggling one-on-one, or you're trying to send that second defender, send it on the drive. Send it on the drive like you did in this Toronto Raptors game. Have those guys guard, and then once the offensive player actually looks to attack and is like head down, driving, or whatever it is, that's when you send the second defender. Those are easier rotations to make because you have all 5 of your defenders, within 20 feet of the basket, and you can throw some more traditional closeouts from there. And so, again, I like the switching. I want to see more of it. I want to see less hedging. I want to see less drop, more switching with Cat and Brunson. Don't send the help aggressively too far away from the basket. Have those guys just press up on the ball, lean on your help and recover athleticism in the form of Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges. Now, there's a certain part of me that will always view the Knicks defense as somewhat vulnerable because of Cat and Brunson, no matter how good they look statistically in the regular season. And by the way, they were 13th in defense last year. It's not that bad, and it's not that far behind where they are this year, right? But it's about finding a way to be just a little bit more resilient against the best offenses that you'll face later on down the line. That will go a long way towards improving their chances, which takes me to my second point that I want to make. I've talked a lot in the last week about how I view the East as somewhat of a 3-horse race right now between Detroit, New York, and Boston. Now, obviously, to be clear, Orlando and Cleveland are in that mix for me, but both of those teams just can't stay healthy. So, it's Franz or Paolo always injured, right? Jalen Suggs has had injury issues over the years, and he's one of their most important plus-minus guys right now. Cleveland, it's like Darius Garland is not playing in back-to-backs, and he's looked really bad since he came back. It's hard for me to really believe in the Cavs until Darius Garland can get back to form. Jared Allen's been out for a long chunk of the season. Max Strus still hasn't played, right? So just take Orlando and Cleveland and just set them to the side for a minute, because we're just going to need to see a lot more from them to have a better idea of what they're capable of. But what I said in the last week was like, I view it as like 50-50 between the Pistons and the Knicks, like a coin flip. And then Boston's hot on their heels for me, pending whatever trade they make and whether Jason Tatum comes back and what he looks like when he does. After last night, I left that game feeling like the Knicks should be the favorite to win the East at this point. And so at this point, if the season were to end today and I had to pick a team that I thought was going to win the East, I'd take the Knicks. To be clear, that doesn't mean they're going to win. They sure as hell are vulnerable. It's not like the Knicks are unbeatable, but there is no 2024 Celtics or 2025 Cavs or 2025 Pacers in this mix, like a clear, this team is like one of those bona fide, well-rounded championship contender type of teams. Every team in the East is flawed, and I think this Knicks team is better than they were last year. Again, we discussed in the December 1st video about how Mike Brown has revamped the offense with more drives, generating more spot-up opportunities. Again, I recommend you guys check out that video if you haven't yet. And I do think they're a bit better defensively this year. Just Mikal and OG in particular have just come into the season with another level of engagement on the defensive end of the floor compared to how they started the season last year. And then also with Giannis essentially out of the equation because the Bucks aren't very good, and we'll see. I don't know if a trade's going to get made in season or not. Again, kind of like Cleveland and Orlando, you almost have to set Giannis aside as like a question mark, and who knows, maybe he ends up going out to the Western Conference, right? But with Giannis out of the equation, you could make the case that Jalen Brunson is the best player in the conference out of all these guys. Jaylen Brown has a case, but one of the differences between Brunson and Brown is Jalen Brunson has a lot of experience as a number one for full playoff runs. He's used to the defensive game plan being built entirely around him. Jaylen Brown's done it for like 2 games at the tail end of the Knicks series last year, right? So like it's going to be a little bit harder for Jaylen Brown to kind of figure that out on the fly. So like, Brunson's probably your best player in the conference that's on a legitimate contender. They have more playoff experience than some of these other teams like Detroit that they would potentially be going against. Boston has this severe front court limitation and a star that's never been in this type of role before for a postseason run. They showed they could beat Detroit last year, although I certainly think Detroit would have a better shot to beat them this year. I haven't been shy about my concerns with the Knicks. Their defense just seems to break apart against teams that can really spread them out with speed and shooting. But ultimately, I just think they're a safer bet overall than all of these other teams out east. Quick notes on the Raptors. They've now lost 6 out of their last 7 games. Injuries have played a role. You're down your entire starting backcourt last night in Emmanuel Quickley and RJ Barrett. Jakob Poeltl missed a couple of those games. They're 28th in offense over that span, though. And several factors there. The biggest one is they've cooled off big time from the three-point line. We talked about this earlier. They were shooting a little above their pay grade to start the season. They're 23rd in three-point percentage in the 7-game slide. The 2 guys in particular that have really hurt them are Sandro Mamukelashvili and Jamal Shed. Those 2 guys are taking 7.3 threes per game, and they're shooting below 25% on them. That's been bad. It's not like the Stars have been too bad. They've been okay, but they haven't been great. They're in like the mid-30s. And then some of your role players have really cooled off. That's hurt their shooting. And so as a result, some of the offensive concerns we had about the Raptors before the season have risen to the surface. Like, what happens when you have a team with a bunch of good ball handlers that are good driving kick players, but there's not enough shooting to pay off those sequences with makes? Kind of reminiscent of like that Jimmy Butler, Dwayne Wade, Rajon Rondo kind of construct in Chicago. Like except for you're dealing with guys that have lower IQs than even that trio had, right? In terms of basketball IQ. So you're seeing a lot of guys going underneath ball screens. You're seeing a lot of short closeouts. And as a result, their offense, when it's struggling like this, it's bleeding into every part of the game. All that swarming on drives is leading to more turnovers. They've had turnover issues in this stretch. Lots of misses and turnovers means your defense isn't set. Their defense has fallen off in a big way during this stretch. They're rebounding terribly in this stretch as well. So like the offense has kind of just been the breaking point that has caused them to slip across the board and in so many facets of the game. Today's show is brought to you by our new presenting sponsor, Hard Rock Bet. Hoop season is heating up just in time for the holidays. NBA and college games are on every night, and each one is a chance to stuff your stocking with a big win on Hard Rock Bet. Your home for hoops action all season long. New customers can sign up and bet $5 on any game, and if it wins, you'll find $150 in bonus bets on top of your winnings stuffed in your stocking. Now that's holiday magic. Not sure what to place for your first bet? Hard Rock Bet just launched a brand new For You page, making it easy to find all of your favorite teams, players, and leagues all in one place. The Hard Rock Bet Sportsbook app is the only legal sportsbook for whenever you're in Florida. And it's also live in Arizona, Ohio, New Jersey, Indiana, Tennessee, Virginia, Illinois, Colorado, and Michigan. Coming soon to more states, too. Plus, Hard Rock Bet offers new promos every single day. So whenever you're listening, just open up the app and check out what you've got any day of the week. Download the Hard Rock Bet app and make your first deposit. All right, moving on to Miami, Orlando. So the Magic beat the Heat for the 3rd time in 3 tries this season. The Heat are now spiraling. They've lost 5 out of 6. We'll zoom in on them in a minute. Desmond Bane goes for 37, 6, and 5 in this one. And it was a drop coverage busting clinic. To be clear, it wasn't all pick and roll. He had a couple transition buckets. There was a zone look that the Heat went to that Desmond Bane busted in the second half with a couple of threes off of the right wing. He attacked Tyler Herro off the dribble one-on-one a couple of times just because he doesn't need a screen to score on Tyler Herro. But literally everything else came out of attacking Bam Adebayo and Kelly Ware in screening action. And he literally did it every which way, hitting pull-up threes when dudes would get caught on screens. He rejected screens, which allowed him to get past the screen defender and get all the way to the basket. He hit middies and floaters against the drop. He straight up toasted the bigs a couple times when they would come up to the level, and he would just turn the corner on that ball screen, get past the big. He got Bam with one in the second half where he just dusted him off the dribble for an easy little left-handed layup. And so Desmond Bane just absolutely fried the base pick and roll coverage for the Miami Heat last night, just spamming two-man game and just doing a ton of damage there. And like we talked about with Bane when the trade first went down, this is the first time in this era, in this construct of the team, that they've had a real guard, like a real two guard that can punish drop coverage to the type of extent you need to, that unlocks those pocket passes, that unlocks those 4-on-3 sequences where you can really start breaking a defense apart because you have a ball handler that's scoring and pick and roll too much. And as a result, he was able to set Wendell Carter Jr. in crunch time up with one of the easiest buckets he's had all season. He actually got fouled on it, but Bam came up to the level, quick pocket pass. It was a cleared side pick and roll on the right side. Wendell Carter in stride, went up with two hands, probably got fouled and laid it in. He had another play where he hit Wendell in the pocket in the first half. And those are those types of sequences that we just didn't see for Orlando a lot early in this era for them, because they didn't have that type of legitimate two guard or point guard that could do enough damage in pick and roll against drop coverage to actually dictate 2-on-the-ball sequences that can lead to those 4-on-3s. And I talk about it all the time. Like, your value as a basketball player is unique to your team. How does your individual skill set complement the team you're playing on? Is Desmond Bane the best two guard in the NBA? Hell no. But he's really damn good at all the two guard stuff. Like, he's a deadly shooter. He's a 3-level scorer. He can make the reads that naturally come out of action when you're scoring the ball effectively. And it was something that this Magic team was missing. And so Desmond Bane specifically is slotted into that void, and he's been a godsend for them. He's been one of the best on-off guys this season. Obviously, there's Jalen Suggs, who's been insane. It's like something crazy, like 12 points better per 100 possessions when Jalen Suggs is on the floor. But their second best on-off guy is Desmond Bane. The Orlando is 5 points better per 100 possessions when Desmond Bane is on the floor versus off. Also, another 30 assist game for the Magic, as they've, again, one of the big stories of their offensive improvement during this recent run has been their ball movement. They're just moving the ball way more than they have in the last couple of seasons. But I want to zoom in on their defense for a minute, specifically how it counters what Miami likes to do. Because Miami got off to a great start in this game. They were up 15-0. Some impressive jump shooting from Norm Powell and Andrew Wiggins in that stretch. They lost Tyler Herro in transition a few times. But again, Miami's offense is built around the pace they play with, right? They get the ball up the floor quickly. They seek early drives when the defense isn't fully set. They get you to react, and they start driving kick sequences. But when they get stopped in transition, they continue to try to probe your defense with drives. They're not looking to run a lot of pick and roll. And this is where this particular matchup is fascinating. And again, Orlando's 3-0 against Miami this year. Orlando is not giving up much in the way of like physical mismatches against Miami. In fact, I'd argue they're bigger, stronger, and faster at most of their position groups. It's really only the Bam Kelly Ware like center rotation where you could be like, yeah, like they're probably a little faster, a little more athletic in that group. But on the perimeter, the Magic are just bigger, faster, stronger. So as long as Orlando gets back in transition and they make a good effort to keep the ball in front, they can stifle Miami's offense. And really quickly, to Miami's credit, they've had success in this matchup on offense for stretches. But consistently over the course of games, the Magic have been able to tighten the screws and really shut down this Miami offense. And in fact, they have allowed just a 99 offensive rating against Miami in all three of their second halves in this matchup this season. Like, Anthony Black just had Tyler Herro in jail last night. Like, Tyler Herro was really only getting free in transition or chaos generated by others. Anthony Black had him completely under control one-on-one. Davion Mitchell wasn't able to get much dribble penetration. Andrew Wiggins and Jaime Jaquez were really the only two guys that were able to get some separation against their defender. And Andrew was pretty damn good last night, but Jaime missed a bunch of looks. And I thought Jaime missed some looks that he could easily make. He had a spin move for a lefty layup that he just fed too long off the back rim. He had a little short jumper around the kind of left block area that he missed. So those are makeable shots for Jaime. But for the most part, in this style of attack, where Miami's just trying to drive the ball, I thought it played right into Orlando's hands because they're just the physically and athletically superior team. So really impressive win for the Magic. And this game with the Knicks on Saturday should be a really fun one. We're going to be live on YouTube on Saturday night. So make sure you guys come hang out to watch our reaction to that game when we get to that point. Some thoughts on the Heat. So the Heat are also spiraling. They've lost 5 of their last 6 games. Some of the similar type of stuff we talked about with the Raptors, where their offense is faltering, which is starting to bleed into every other facet of the game. Their defense hasn't been as good as it was to start the season. They're rebounding poorly. They're 22nd in rebounding in this stretch. They're getting beat in transition because their offense is faltering. There's definitely some slippage across the board for Miami. But I want to zoom in on the offense for a second, because similar to Toronto, I do think that's the genesis of it, their offense kind of faltering. We did see a bit more ball screen action from the Heat in the second half last night. And just, again, what I'm looking at there is just attacking Orlando's bigs in action, whether it's a pick and roll or it's some sort of off-ball action, something to get Orlando's bigs involved in the screen. And I actually thought they got good looks out of those sequences, but they just didn't run it nearly enough. They ran only 11 pick and rolls in the entire game last night. I want to zoom in on Desmond Bane as a counter example to this, because Herro and Bane are very similar players on offense. At their core, they're mediocre athletes at the 2-guard position, right? Bane's a little stronger than Herro is. Herro's a little taller, but neither guy is Anthony Edwards or Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, like a supremely gifted athlete at the position. These are skilled players that are very good at making the types of shots that are naturally generated in typical NBA offense and the reads that come out of it. So screening action is what allows them to gain advantage by allowing them to shed their on-ball defender and to work downhill against a backpedaling big. Bane got those opportunities last night, ran a ton of ball screens. As a result, he caught a real rhythm and he torched the Heat. Herro got a handful, generated some decent shots out of him. Came right out the gates to start the second half. A little ball screen with Bam, rejected the screen, got a wide open pull-up 3 on the left wing. He was able to generate some stuff in the pocket during that game in pick and roll. He got some good looks, but there wasn't nearly enough. And so as a result, he had to work one-on-one a lot. And outside of like some transition chaos, I mean, he got a couple of buckets in certain situations, some transition, some off-ball sequences, but he was unable to gain advantage against Anthony Black. He was unable to break Orlando's defense down as a one-on-one player in the half court. Desmond Bane had a couple of one-on-ones, favorable matchups against Tyler Herro, where he just drove by him for little right-handed layups. But for the most part, Bane was gaining advantage or breaking down Miami's defense through attacking their bigs in ball screens. Orlando had those same entry points. Wendell Carter Jr., Goga Bitadze. They had the same vehicle with which to enter that defense, and they just weren't going to it enough. I want to see, because we've seen this problem arise before with Herro. Like, Herro, for the record, overall has been really good in this system, in the large sample. His scoring volume has been great. His efficiency has been better than ever. The pure numbers in the large sample are still really good for Tyler Herro. But I've seen a couple of things. One, his playmaking has fallen off of a cliff. Look at his assist average year over year. It's like less than half what it was last year. So he's not getting as many playmaking opportunities that he was getting in his pick and roll sequences. And then 2, we've seen specific individual circumstances, individual matchups where Herro's really struggled. The 2 games that I look at are last night's Heat game as an example against Anthony Black, but also the Dallas Mavericks game, especially down the stretch against Najee Marshall. He didn't look comfortable attacking Najee Marshall, and it kind of removed Tyler Herro offensively from the equation down the stretch. So I want to see Eric Spoelstra show more flexibility with allowing Tyler Herro to work a higher volume of ball screens when things do get stuck in the half court. And that's like, if you ask me my first impression of this Heat offense, we're about a quarter of the way through the season, right? So we've seen a decent sample size of it. That's my first impression. Like, I love the transition attack. Love that idea. It's a great margin to try to hunt in the NBA. I love the early, I love the idea of the driving kick play as an early offense concept. What you're doing in the first 7 or 8 seconds of the shot clock, get the ball at the floor quickly, try to attack a drive. When you have favorable matchups, I like attacking those matchups one-on-one with drives. But once the early offense is shut down, so once they stop the transition attack, and there isn't an obvious matchup to attack, let's get the ball to Tyler Herro in a high ball screen. It unlocks his playmaking more. It unlocks some of the natural skill set that he has as an off-screen player. Again, I'm not saying bail on the offense. I'm just saying when you get into the last 10 seconds of the shot clock and you don't have the obvious, this guy can't guard this guy one-on-one type of matchup to attack, treat your base offensive concept as more of an early offense type of concept and lean more on that Tyler Herro ball screen as your later clock. This is our best vehicle with which to break down the defense when our early offense stuff doesn't work. I just want to see some more flexibility from Spoelstra there. For the record, we did see a little bit more of it in the second half. It feels like it's trending a little bit more in that direction. I just think it's inevitable. This inevitably is going to have to be a team that runs more like 20-25 pick and rolls a game where you're using Tyler Herro as the last 10 seconds of the shot clock, primary shot creator with Bam Adebayo, just to give you another vehicle with which to break down the defense. And more importantly, you got to get those reps in because inevitably that's going to be something you're going to have to do in the postseason. I want to just see them get the reps in over the course of the season. All right, guys, that's all I have for today. As always, I sincerely appreciate you guys for supporting us and supporting the show. We will be back tonight live on YouTube after the final buzzer of Spurs Lakers. We'll be breaking down both games from tonight's in-season tournament slate. I will see you guys then.